Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. You're watching Daddy Daughter Talk the podcast, and I am Kelsey, and you are.
I am Dad. I'm Chris.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's
Uh,
up? What's up?
what we talking about today, Dad?
What we're talking about today is kind of, are we speaking the same language? And of course, you and I are speaking English. We're both speaking English, so we should understand what the other person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes a little deeper than that. Just a little bit deeper. It's not only do you understand what I'm saying, do you understand the intent of what I'm saying? Are you receiving the message in the manner in which I'm sending it, not just receiving the message in the manner in which you're receiving it? That
Cool.
makes sense to you? Have you ever said something to somebody and they understood the words that you were saying, but they did not understand the meaning of what you said?
A lot of the times.
Right. So that's what probably happens in a lot of relationships. And in my humble opinion, you should always check for clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just checking to see if I understand what you said,
Mm-hmm.
but I understand what you said in the manner in which you were saying it, the
Right.
content and context of what it is that you're saying. And if we have all those things together, we should be able to move forward amicably or with a true understanding. Because you can understand what somebody said, but still not understand what somebody's saying.
Right. I have a quick
And
little
that's important.
story time to go with that.
Go ahead.
As a kid, early elementary school days, I could read. I could read pretty early on, but I could not comprehend to save my life. I could read in the sense of I know these words. I can read
Hmm.
the words on the page. I can read them fast. I can read them well. I understood punctuation. Reading aloud was never a problem for me. Don't ask me what was on that page. Words. Well, what was it about? Huh? I'm supposed to take that in? I don't know. I know that you put these letters together, it's gonna make this word every time. I know how to spell. I got you on the spelling. But the comprehension part I didn't get. And my mom every year in school, every time she meet a teacher, she always used to give them like these little hints, like she gonna be the best student in the world in the first couple of months. And then she gonna start doing some stuff that you gonna be like, no, Kelsey wouldn't do that, and you would skip over it. And then also in her learning, she will she knows how to assimilate or look like she know what she's talking about, especially if it's repetition. She can repeat some stuff and she can spew out answers to get the right answer, but that don't quite mean she understand. So check into that, because you're gonna see, oh, she got A, and then when it's all cumulative, she gonna be there like, huh? And she not gonna ask no questions. So check into that. And I would hate it every year. Mind your business and stop telling these people my business. Back off, lady, like chill. But it was very true. Like every year I was on a higher reading level than the grade that I was in, but that's because I was just a good test taker and I could spew out facts. But after that test was done, don't ask me what was on it, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And that goes the same for like language. And if you watched our last video titled Hotels, it was a direct example in there. I heard him saying one thing and I knew what all of those words meant. But if I was asked to regurgitate what he said, I would have said something totally different, because I heard and consumed something totally different. The way that I comprehended the words that he said were not the words that he said, and not in
Hmm.
how he meant it. So that's what kind of like, if we given real life examples of not speaking the same language, but it's all English though.
Yeah, it's. But like you said, reading.
Mm-hmm.
There's a second part to that reading, because they have reading and then they have reading and comprehension.
Right.
So when you do a book report,
Mm-hmm.
you can read this book. It's obvious you read this book because you included the title, you included the author, you included all the main characters, and you
Mhm.
included all the activities that happened in said story.
Mhm.
But your overall interpretation of the book was way off. You didn't comprehend what it is that he said. Now, you may give points for creativity for what you interpreted,
Right.
but the interpretation was so far away from the intended message that the author was sending.
Mhm.
And that it happens that way. And sometimes your interpretation can shed a different light or give a different meaning to the intended meaning. Like, I never thought about it that way.
Mhm.
But in most cases, your interpretation, if it's off center, is off center. You didn't interpret what the artist was saying.
Mhm.
You came across with your own thing, and that's possible, but you actually need to come back to the fold to get my meaning of what I was saying,
Mhm.
not just your interpretation. And that's what happens in a lot of situations. You interpret what I said and hold me accountable for what your interpretation was.
Right.
That's a you thing. That's not a me thing, because I never said that.
Mhm.
I never said that. I never said that at all. And I see it happening all the time where a person says, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You said this. No, okay, let's go back to the words. I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You told me I said 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Well, that's what you meant. How do you know what I meant? You never asked me any questions. Always ask questions to ensure that you understand what a person's saying. Because if you don't, you can end up arguing with a friend. And what I mean by arguing with a friend, you guys hold the same viewpoint,
Mhm.
but you're arguing.
Right.
It's because you didn't understand what they were actually saying. You heard what they said, but ask a question to ensure you understand what they're saying and how they're saying and how they intend for it to be interpreted.
Mhm.
I can tell you I love you, and you heard I want to be with you for the rest of my life.
It's
It's
not
not
what's.
what I said. I just said I love you, and all that means is I love you. That's it.
Mhm.
I mean, but when I tell people I love them, I only tell people I love them when I intend on being with them. I've never told anybody I love them and I don't want them in my life for the rest of your life. But
That's.
you say and what you do, I don't say that and I don't do that. So
Mhm.
don't hold me accountable for your stuff. Hold me accountable for my stuff. But that means you have to understand
Mhm.
what it is that I'm saying. And I can say my last situation probably ended behind those things. I would say things and they didn't ask me what that meant.
Mhm.
And that happens far too often. And I see this with, this may go off course a little bit, I don't know, but I see this with women a lot where you're saying something and the woman will just absorb what it is that the man said and interpret it right there on the spot.
Mhm.
But there's a whole human being in front of them that can actually explain their feelings,
Mhm.
and you never ask them. You never ask them, what does that mean? Or this is what I heard you say. This is my interpretation of what you said. Is that accurate to
Mhm.
the message you intended to give?
Mhm.
Doesn't happen. They just sit there and eliminate this human being in front of them and process it how they process it and hold him accountable.
Mhm.
That needs to stop. That everybody out there that just heard what I said and you realize this is what you do, stop that. You're actually playing a part of your demise more so than playing a role in your success. They're right there in front of you. I mean, just imagine somebody doing that to you. You say something and they hold you accountable for their interpretation of what you said. When you were there, you're right there. I can ask you, Kelsey, this is what you said. This is what I heard. Is what I received close to what you threw? If I don't do that, how are you responsible for what you heard? Because it's not what I said. It's what you heard. Like I said, the last video, I said something and you, huh? But you double back to ask what it is that I said. So once you gained an understanding of what I actually said and what I actually meant, did it change your to oh?
Yeah. I was actually going to touch on that. One, to kind of answer your question, which probably wasn't even, it was more rhetorical than anything. But when that happens to me a lot, I will say some stuff and it may go over somebody's head. And again, I'll be right there and they won't ask me what I meant. And a lot of times I think they may not ask me what I meant in fear of looking dumb or seeming um to be beneath me. And so they will just sit there and be confused rather than ask clarifying questions. And it annoys me because, like, to me, I feel like I'm a pretty open-minded person. And I feel like I at least try to be welcoming and create a comfortable environment for people to ask me questions. In fact, I like talking. Ask me stuff. But some people, they see me as this philosophical person and they may not even know what question it is to ask per se. And so they just don't. And again, if you watched our last video, which I'll kind of give you like a brief synopsis, basically we were talking about who owns the vagina, the person who is physically on the body or the person that they are committed to. And the original state, after talking about it, what I heard was, if you in a committed relationship, and we're talking female guy, it could be other scenarios, but this is what we're talking about. If you are in a committed relationship, the guy owns the vagina. And I heard it for the exact words. Guy owns vagina. But even though I turned my face, I didn't stop listening there. I kept listening. And although I kind of had my answer, I didn't want to assume. So I posed the question. Now, in my questioning, I had to set up some disclaimers because I didn't quite know what I was asking. I didn't quite know what I was trying to reassure myself on. So I said, I'm not sure if that female part of my brain clicked on and just reworded your statement and processed it how I wanted to hear it as a female, or if I'm just confused. And I prefixed my question like that just so that he could help better answer my question or guide me to asking a more appropriate question so that I could truly understand. And we got to a mutual level of understanding. I now can interpret exactly what you meant because I asked follow-up questions to make sure that I'm not just taking off your words and making my own meaning for. Now you gotta watch that video to figure out what we came up with at the end. But the fact is that there was a disconnect, and I noticed it because, one, I know him. He's my dad and also my friend. So I know that more than likely his intentions are pure. So if something is off-putting in something that he said, more than likely with our relationship is because I heard it differently than what he said. So let me ask a question. And then I also understand with him, even if I don't know exactly what to ask, if I ask something and I put out all the details that I have at the moment, if I put it all out there, he'll help me figure out what my question is and we'll get a better understanding. So let me just give you everything that I got and I can reshape my question later based off of the feedback that you give me so that we can be on the same page. And the more we bounce back and forth, the closer we fill in that gap. So we're not miles apart based off of misinterpreted words, you know. So I forgot where I was going with this. Point of the matter is, don't ever be afraid to ask questions for a better understanding, because either you don't want to look inferior to somebody or you just don't know the questions to ask. Like, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I'm confused in some type of way. So let me just say some stuff and we just keep bouncing off of each other until we meet in the middle. And what you said is what I actually heard. And then to kind of jump to the next scenario, as it pertains to women, and I'm speaking about majority, not all, I feel like when we have that person right in front of us to clarify, because we sometimes work on a I said what I said type of basis, we put that energy off on the male counterpart. Like, oh no, he said what he said, that like he meant that. And he could very well mean what he said, but what he said is not what you heard. So maybe you should ask clarifying questions, but because you don't accept for people to ask you questions because you said what you said, and you're not going to explain what it is that you said so that they heard what you said, you just already count yourself out. Like, no, I can't ask questions because he meant what it is that he said, and he might very well meant that, but what you heard might not be what he said. So that's when we kind of as you said, work towards our demise, because you forget to ask that human being that's standing right in front of you, what did you mean by this? Because maybe he needs to say different words that mean the same thing so that you can better understand. But you can't do that if you don't ask no questions.
So you really just tested my aging mind,
Yeah.
because you said something really, really impactful earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but you also referred you went back to a previous video versus put versus place.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to place the question,
Mm-hmm.
but you really didn't know how to place the question, or what question you really wanted to place.
Mm-hmm.
So you did what we talked about and what we've gone through for years. Just put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you place it.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you find the question, or anybody can help you find the question
Mm-hmm.
while looking for the answer, but you gotta get it out of you first. If it stays inside you, nobody knows what you want. Nobody knows what's going on. Get it out. And together we can sort it out to find the question first, and then also find the answer together. That's number one. Number two, and if you know me in real life and you're a female and you talk to me, I probably said this to you before. If you talk to me enough, I probably said this to you before. I said it to my mother. I said it to Kelsey. Don't listen to what I'm saying like a female. Like you said, that was due to you said your female switch. You turn that female switch on,
Mm-hmm.
and you're receiving a male message, but you're interpreting it in your female mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying turn off your femininity or turn off the fact that you're a woman. I'm saying listen with a neutral mind,
Mm-hmm.
because it can work in reverse, where a woman is saying something to a guy and he's turned on his male ears, a male thought process. That's where so much miscommunication goes, because I'm saying something from a guy, yeah, that vagina belongs to him. You heard, well, wait a minute. You processed all of those things in the female process. It's like cheating.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question I get most often. And I then have to turn around because I understand it. I understand it altogether. I can explain it to you like a guy. I can give it to you straight like a guy. You will never, ever understand what it is that I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I give you the whole answer in a female perspective, which I explain cheating like cheating on a diet. That's how I explain it, because I know that you're going to process this like a female.
Mm-hmm.
And processing like a female coming from a male, it ain't gonna never work. It ain't gonna never work. It's like reading two different versions of a Bible. It's gonna be two different interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit there and try to mold them together if you want to, but you say this word compared to this word, it gives a totally different meaning. But you're always supposed to go back behind it and ask clarifying questions to ensure that this, and that's what happened. You were like, that sounds kind of weird, Dad. What do you mean? What exactly are you saying? And giving analogies and just not necessarily restating what it is that I said, because for me, just to restate it, that's all I'm doing is restating it. I'm not giving any context to what it is that I'm saying, but as best you can, listen to people with neutral ear. Don't listen with a male ear or listen with a female ear. Now, if you're talking to a female and you're a female, you can listen with a female ear because y'all talking the same language. Males to males, y'all talking the same language, and you still should go in and ask clarifying questions, because there's so many times that you can hear everything they're saying and you can regurgitate it. So like you, when you were a kid, you heard the lesson and they give you a test. All you got to do is repeat what they said and you got an A, but repeat it in your own words. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I don't know what I mean. And so, do I do this with you? I'll say something to you and then say, give it back to me in your own words.
Yeah.
It's a teach back. If you can tell me in your own words what I said, then I know you understand what I said. You can now take my lesson and teach it to somebody else. If you can't do that, you probably don't understand what it is that I said. Mm-hmm. And if the conversation starts off with, I feel, I know you ain't heard what I said. I know dang on well you ain't heard nothing I said. And it, with the intent in which I gave it. I know you ain't heard what I said. I feel, nah, we good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, just go into these conversations one with an open mind. Listen to comprehend. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to respond. Don't gain information just to hoard it. Gain the information to understand, comprehend, and solve problems.
Mm-hmm. I think.
You have anything else? Go ahead.
I think the last thing that I wanted to add would be, as a listener. So many of us think that we're good listeners because we are hearing words. And because technically, like, my ears heard you. But sometimes we have the habit of hanging on to words without adding meaning to those words. So either taking things for what, like, the literal breakdown of what we think these words mean and how they were put together. But after we hear those words, we forget to follow up with what was not said. Like, when it comes to communication, only so much of communication is actually verbal. So much of communication is the actual verbiage. More of it is the non-verbal, like taking into account this person's personality, the intentions, the body language, the mindset that they were in when they said it. Like, it's so much more than the actual words. And people think because I can repeat to you what you said to me that you understand. No, you can simply repeat what was said to you. That doesn't mean that you understand. So when you think about the type of listener you are, make sure that you are a well-rounded listener. You are listening to the whole. Even the things you didn't hear, you're listening to. Listen with your eyes, listen to their actions. You can't hear it per se, but that's a part of the skill set that you need to actually be a good listener. And then on the other end, for the person that's actually communicating, step outside of that. I said what I said, but when you said it, were you like this? When you said it, did you take into consideration your audience? Because there's certain things that I can say to him that I don't necessarily have to sugarcoat, because he knows me well enough to, and he's a good listener in the fact that he's going to take into account all of what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. And so for the most part, we are usually on a similar page. And if not, he don't have a problem with asking me what I meant and following up with questionings. So I don't have to work as hard to communicate with him because he's an active a participant in the communication. But also being a good communicator, I understand that sometimes, depending on my audience, I have to say things differently to make sure that my English that I'm speaking is the same English that they're going to be hearing when I say it. So I might have to tweak what I say and how I say it and tweak my engagement to make sure that they are hearing me well. And sometimes I even have to go the extra mile and ask the questions that I know they're not going to ask to make sure that I am heard as intended. Now, sometimes we will say some things and be like, well, if you perceived it wrong, that's on you. But that means it wasn't that important for you to be understood. But a lot of us be searching for understanding and to be understood, but not willing to say whatever it is that you said multiple times until you get there. So you have to be an effective communicator, and you also have to be a good listener and listen to the things that aren't said. Stop hanging on to every individual word, because a lot of times when you do that, you can only hang on to so much. Your brain is only going to remember so much. So you hanging on to this little subsection of what was said when I said this much. It ain't even in the camera view. You done dropped so many words hanging on to this little phrase that was probably insignificant anyway. So be better listeners, guys, and then we can all speak the same language and be better communicators too. Understand that you might have to repeat yourself. You might have to even change your wording a little bit based on your audience to make sure that the intentions and the perceptions are the same.
Yeah. I think we've covered all bases on that. But if there was something that you guys didn't understand or didn't receive or just have a question about, you got the comment section below. So make sure you jump down in the comment section, ask questions. We're more than happy to um, double back and answer those questions. Um, Also, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe as well, so that way you don't have to go searching for anything. We'll actually come to you to let you know we have new content. And also, you gotta love it and share it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything but the press of a button. So if you find any value of what it is that we say, please speak with us and comment to us about it. Share the content with other people if you feel as though it will provide some value to them. We appreciate that, and I think it's time to bring this episode to a close. So with that being said, daddy daughter out.